Welcome back. You're still watching Your Story. Now, the SOS Coalition is a civil society coalition, has been watching the SABC since 2008, campaigning to ensure that the SABC broadcasts in the best interest of the public. Well, from the details that have emerged from the report of the Commission of Inquiry into interference in the decision-making in the newsroom of the SABC, the best interest of the public was perhaps not served by the public broadcaster for the period reviewed from 2012 to 2018. Joining me now on the line is the National Coordinator of SOS Coalition, Duduetsang Makuse. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the program. Your thoughts about what came out in the report? I guess none of it was a surprise, as you've been watching the public broadcaster from a distance.
Absolutely, Peter. I think the good thing is that the report is finally out. It's been a long process, and we've all been eagerly awaiting to see what the findings would be and what the recommendations would be. So in terms of process, we're glad that we're at this point. In terms of the report itself, I think there's much that still needs to be done, but I think it's a start.
All right, so the report, some would say, was fairly comprehensive, or do you think that there was more that they should have looked at or could have looked at?
Look, I mean, it was a tall order from the start, right? We were asking the Commission to essentially look at 2012 to 2019. That's a long period of time to investigate electoral interference. And also, the nature of the Commission wasn't that they were going to investigate with the intent to, then take all kinds of either punitive measures and so on and so forth. So the terms of reference needed to be such that they start the conversation and open up a culture of transparency and a culture of disclosure at the SABC. And I think we've started that process. But in terms of whether or not they could have done more, they obviously could have done more. There's a lot more that they could have pushed more for, the previous leaders of the SABC to participate in the process. I mean, Saudi's response to not being part of this inquiry was absolutely ridiculous. There's a lot of accountability. I think the demand for accountability in terms of what the public was expecting has not fully been met, but we have something to work with.
And your thoughts about some of the remedial action that's been recommended?
The remedial actions are good. I mean, if you think also about the suggestion that we shouldn't have the editor-in-chief actually at TCEO level or as the COO, in fact, but rather as the group of news. I mean, that's a recommendation that I think should be looked into more thoughtfully, because it could potentially create or rather strengthen the Chinese wall that should exist between operational teams and newsroom teams. So I think that's something that's positive. And then also looking at not actually having shut the door for the board itself and management itself to go in and further investigate if there is need to investigate and to take disciplinary actions against anybody that might have broken the law or even who might have conducted themselves in a criminal way.
Have you engaged with the staff of the SABC over the years, and what are some of the things that came out for you that perhaps not in the report or were highlighted very well in the report?
I think what the report does is that it pulls out the high-level themes, the themes of the policymaker coming into the space and interfering in literally journalistic practices in the field. The theme of executives, operational executives, trying to influence the newsroom agenda. I mean, those are high-level themes that we know were happening. We heard rumors that these things were happening, but also the bullying that was happening between middle management and other staff, as well as across horizontally as well. So in terms of pulling out what we were suspecting was happening and actually humanizing that and putting names and stories and concretizing the context of how these things were happening, I think that the report is good on that. In terms of whether it covers the depth and the breadth of this malfeasance, I'm not so sure that it does that. And that's why I keep saying that, it's a start in terms of allowing the board and the current leaders at the SABC to look into these things and to find the systemic causes. What are the things that keep allowing for such practices to prevail? I think that's the question we need to be asking ourselves now.
All right, so you say it's a start. What will you be looking out for as the next steps now?
The next steps should be all about accountability, wherever possible. I mean, we heard advocates talking about potentially 31 individuals being taken to task for either being irregularly appointed or having received irregular bonuses. I think that's the next step. Is people want to see action. They want to see that we don't just produce reports that sit on shelves. We produce reports and we use the recommendations and we implement them to the betterment of our institutions.
All right, Duduetsang, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much indeed for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us. That's Duduetsang Makuse, who's the National Coordinator of the SOS Coalition, a coalition that's been busy since 2008, working hard, campaigning to make sure that the SABC broadcasts in the interests of the public. And going by what the chairman said a little bit earlier on today, reports, particularly after the elections, showed that the SABC had 99% of the time been fair, so things certainly look like they're changing quite a bit. Valesa?